Hi. So I can't not post this video. I feel like it's a very important topic that came up today in a conversation with a client, something we're working through, and I think the world is working through this. So I had to share what's come to me since having that conversation. The culture we live in highly values the external, the masculine, the evidence, the things that prove our worth on the outside. The culture might value income, status, degrees, external looks, and that kind of thing. Our school system is more left brain, more masculine of a system than feminine. We never received tests in school that talked about how do you feel, what's the feeling that you get. It's always about memorization. Do you remember the facts about this event? Do you remember the formula about this thing? So we've been really indoctrinated into a culture and system of more masculine, which is okay because we are, I really believe, meant to have masculine and feminine, but it's been a little more favored towards the masculine. It's been a little more favoring the logical left brain. Logic is a function of the masculine energy. So when we're talking about the 7 Hermetic principles, one of them is gender, and we're not talking about gender in terms of sex, we're talking about gender in terms of energy. So the energy of the masculine is more logical, is more evidence-based, and is more external. What's more internal is the feminine. The feminine is more oriented to emotions and the heart. The feminine is more oriented towards rhythm and flow, and it's less about external, it's more about the internal spaces. So hopefully that makes sense to you and you're with me so far. Because our culture values more of these external things, like I said, an example is degree, income, like degree as in like how far did you go in school, titles, salary, right, income, finances, and things like this. It makes sense that a lot of times we are stressed when we're not producing on the outside, when we're not making the money or progressing in terms of like climbing the corporate ladder or getting a pay raise or getting recognition on the external. It makes sense that people would really feel that they're not doing well in life when these things aren't happening. But I just want to shed light on something that may not have, maybe you need to hear this, okay? First of all, I'll start here. We are in a new era in terms of how this world is shaping and shifting. And I'm not an astrologer, I won't get into it, but I do know that we are in the age of Aquarius, which is a shift towards the feminine. It is to bring balance into this male dominant way of living that we've operated in. So in this time, it's important to value the internal work that we're doing and to see that that is also great work. The problem is there's no external proof that it's happening. It's not as concrete. So I had a client that I was just talking with about this today. She is really has been struggling with finding her career path and knowing for certain what she's meant to do, and finances and career and all of this. And these are all very important, but what I needed her to see at least, and at least own and appreciate about herself, is she has been putting so much work and focus on her internal landscapes. She's been working on her shadow. She's been sitting with hard emotions. She's made some big life changes to support herself, and she's really been working on in such a deep way, self-care and boundaries. In other words, she's been putting her internal needs and her internal growth first. On the outside, in today's standards and by what our current culture values, this is not enough. It's not producing anything. It's not productive. But just remember, those are external ways of showing up in the world, producing something and delivering a tangible success or achievement. In terms of the feminine, she has been making so much progress and doing so much amazing healing for herself. And because this is not as recognized or as valued, it can feel like it can be easy to beat ourselves up when we're not showing up in that external way. So if you needed to hear this, I want to remind you that internal work is as significant, if not more significant, than external work. Because listen to this: how many successful people on the outside, in terms of the average view of success, we're talking money and career and house and car, and they're doing well on those levels, in that way of success. How many people do we know or have we heard of that have alcohol abuse issues? They are addicted to drugs. They are into low-level pleasures like child pornography or sexual. They are committing sexual abuse or physical abuse acts within their own home. How many of these people commit suicide? So I just want to point out that if we don't do the internal work, which is quieter, softer inside, maybe people on the outside won't recognize it. Maybe we don't have as much to show for this work. But if we don't do this work, then what is the point of having a career and all that external validation? Because this internal work that we do is the foundation for our external selves. The internal work is going to help us connect to our soul and move through life in a grounded, clear, and healthy, gentle way, so that we can produce and do things in the external world from a healthy place. Our culture has it backwards, that we validate the external first and the internal is lacking, and that's why that system crumbles. That's why you see people who outwardly have it all, and there's still such a gaping hole in their lives that they will find themselves in these dark places. So if we don't do the internal work, in my opinion, we're bypassing the foundation that must be there to support us and hold us when we do reach these external levels of success. What's the point of having a great career and a great salary, a great position, an impressive title, if internally we are in shambles? I strongly want to encourage you to take an interest in knowing yourself at a deep level and doing the internal work. And I strongly want to encourage you to value the work that you do already that is for your inner self, your own sense of groundedness and healing. The things that are going to happen when you prioritize this sort of internal work is you may look on the outside like you're not doing as much. So if that means laying on the floor for 10 minutes just to calm everything down, taking a nightly bubble bath, allowing yourself to go for long walks in the park, journaling every night, starting each day with a 5, 10, 15, 20, 30-minute, whatever meditation, saying no to a workout, but yes to a stretching session. These are all examples of how the internal work, the restoring of our energy and getting to know our soul at a deeper level can look like laziness on the outside. It can look less impressive on the outside, but we have to know what it's doing what it's doing on an internal level and how much it's supporting us so that we can be successful internally and externally. So yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you needed to hear the message, that's why you're listening, and it resonates. Is there anything else that I wanted to share? I'm sure there was. This has just been on my mind all day, and even in my personal life, I've found myself in a place where I've needed a lot of quiet, I've needed a lot of reflection time, I've needed quiet, and outwardly it looks like I'm doing less, but this deep restorative phase is going to allow me to produce. So when this cycle is over, I'm just going to enter into a highly productive cycle. That's the law of rhythm. Again, one of the 7 Hermetic principles. The law of rhythm says that nature is seasons, and we have no control over when those seasons happen. And as above, so below, we are also seasons. Humans are seasons. Humans are nature. So therefore, we're going to have these ebbs and flows. We need to value the winter seasons as much as the summer seasons. Summer is going to be about producing, making things happen, productivity, more sunlight, more energy. That's all masculine. Winter is going to represent internal spaces, maybe more quiet, being more of the hermit, processing, allowing, and that's more of the feminine. It's associated with the moon. More dark in a day is winter time, so there's less energy, less sun. That's really a time to be more withdrawn and to be more introspective. So again, our culture has valued more of the masculine summertime season, being productive, external achievements, and it's so important. It's as important as this other season that I'm speaking of, the winter time, the feminine, the processing. Both need to happen for health and balance, but we have tended to favor and think that one is better than the other, and it's just not the case. So if you find yourself in one of these seasons and you're beating yourself up thinking, I'm not doing good, I can't seem to get moving, just consider that maybe you've come out of a summer season and maybe it's time for a winter season. If you just went through a period in your life where so much was getting done, you got new clients, your business was growing, you changed jobs, you've changed houses, you've been growing in all these external ways, it seems very natural that the rhythm will now move into a space that is going to allow you to recover and process, and you are still growing even in that phase. Don't think that you're stagnant just because you're doing less. You may be stagnant, you may be still physically, you might be doing less on the outside, but there's still so much internal work being done, and it's so important to value that. So remember that. Remember, the law of rhythm is going to always take care of itself. You're not going to be stuck. The only time we get stuck is when we don't allow these rhythms to happen, and if we don't recognize what season we're in. If we continue to force ourselves because we believe that only one way of productivity matters, the external way, then we can get stuck because we're not allowing ourselves to ebb and flow. So just remembering those concepts. The law of gender is talking about the feminine and the masculine, and we want to think about how are we maybe out of balance or overdoing one, and also understanding that our culture for a very, very long time has really valued the masculine much more than the feminine. So it makes sense why, just being a product of our culture, we might feel guilt or shame or judgment when we find ourselves less productive in the external world. The law of gender is helping us see that the feminine is more flowing and working on the internal, And we need to value that work as much as we value the other work. Just because our culture maybe hasn't caught on yet, even though it's changing because we are in a big shift, doesn't mean that we can't provide that balance for ourselves and that understanding and that permission that says, giving myself this rest day is okay. Allowing my body to recover from being sick is okay. Taking the day off and calling out from work because I need to have a self-care day is okay. Saying I need to, instead of doing a hard workout, I need to take a bubble bath, I need to take a nap. All of these things are allowed because that's honoring the internal space. Doing inner work is so, I think, so much harder than pursuing a career or completing a course, because the internal work is going to show you your shadow. It's going to show you the deepest aspect of yourself, and in that comes so much awareness that can also be really, really hard. Anyone who's been doing internal work for long enough understands how difficult that work is. So it's not like you're taking the easy route by any means. Some of my hardest days have been in the midst of seeing a shadow aspect of myself and sitting with it and having the emotions and processing it, and it's just as challenging. So it's not like I'm being lazy or one is work and one is easy. That's not the case. So we want to just be fair and allow these to be balanced in us. And one other thing is, if you look down here, animals have no problem. They have no problem meeting their needs. Animals are so tuned into their rhythms. They are perfect examples to us of being able to be in the moment and be present. One moment the dog is racing through the yard, pushing out all this energy, expending energy, getting shit done, digging holes, barking, very masculine, very much in the outward external push. And then the next moment, that very same dog is curled up in the coziest bed, dreaming, being loungy, and can do this for easily an hour. So I'm not saying that, this is really a simple example, but you can see that animals are so much more tuned into their inherent nature that they are easily oscillating between summer and winter, easily oscillating. And that's because they are a product of nature, just like we are. So we want to respect that and give our day and give our week and give our months the space to have those natural rhythms and continue to value the inner work as much as we do the external achievements. Okay, I'll see you around. Bye.